Let's go, boy.
Dan Whitehead, we've both been playing Fallout 4 for the past week, and you've decided to award it with a recommended badge in the Eurogamer review. Why recommended? Why not essential?
Because it is often an amazing game. It's an incredibly absorbing game, but it's still got that Bethesda game engine, and it's really creaking. And I think anyone who is expecting the move to PS4 and Xbox One to suddenly usher in a new era of stability is probably, they need to lower their expectations a bit. It's still glitchy, still weird physics things going on, and in the long term, I've been burned too many times by being too enthusiastic about Bethesda games, and then months later people go, why didn't you know about all these problems? And I've seen enough minor issues to worry that there may be major issues after sort of 60, 70 hours of play. So I'm hedging my bets. It's definitely a game you will want to play, but beware, it will not be a smooth experience.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts exactly, really. I've played now for about 25 hours, and I've found the world and the stories really absorbing. There's just so much to do, but there is always this kind of danger of something breaking the immersion, like a wobbly bit of scenery or a gun sticking through a wall and vibrating randomly.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually lost count of the number of battles that I've won because some major, they don't have boss enemies in this game, but there's some kind of huge enemy that you're supposed to go, oh my god, how am I going to defeat this? And I've killed it because it's just got stuck in place, and I could just stand at a distance and just spam it with attacks until it died. And the first time that happens, you kind of oh phew, but I'll take that. And then after sort of 3-4 times, you start thinking, oh, hang about, I'm feeling a bit cheated out of my well-earned victory here.
That's true. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have been saying recently in these last couple of days, due to gameplay leaks and things, they've been complaining a lot about the graphics, saying it's not really that next-gen-y. How do you feel about the graphics?
I mean, it certainly looks better than any Bethesda RPG has before. It looks even nicer than Skyrim, and it is capable of looking absolutely gorgeous if you catch it in the right moment. It's not so much the fidelity of the graphics, it's the engine beneath them, if you see what I mean. I think a game this size, because it is a huge game, I mean, there is so much stuff in it, and it's still got that persistent world thing where if you drop something, it will still be there when you come back. So I think there's a ceiling to how good a game like this can look, given just how much data it's having to throw around, even on a next-gen system. I think, it's never going to be photoreal, because to do that, you'd need a hard drive the size of Boston, basically.
I mean, I think it looks really nice. I don't see why people are being so negative about it. I like how bright it is.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting, I think, is particularly nice. I think that really makes a difference. The sunlight and the sort of spookier interiors and stuff. It's a nice looking game. It's not a game that's going to blow you away in the same way that a smaller, more contained arcade game can.
No, there's a couple of instances where you are on high points, and the game gives you an opportunity to look out and admire the view, and the view isn't as impressive as something like Skyrim, I don't think.
I don't know. I think Skyrim is a more beautiful game just because it's got that setting looks nicer. You've got sweeping mountains and stuff, whereas it's a very autumnal game.
Yeah.
So I think maybe people who are sick of brown in games will be a bit less enamored with this. But I quite like it this time of year. It feels like the real world and the world of Fallout are kind of in sync, and it's you've got all the brown leaves, and some of the countryside areas are really nice. But yeah, it's a game this size. It's never going to be spectacular, simply because the number of assets you'd need in high definition, there just isn't enough storage to render them in that level.
Yeah, it's true. And the game itself it's huge. You've got a lengthy main story anyway, but then you have to factor in, of course, all the side missions, the base building, the crafting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about it, because I was playing Assassin's Creed Syndicate just before Fallout 4, and the difference in those two games I think is really informative, because Assassin's Creed, not to sort of lay into that game, but Assassin's Creed is a game where you climb up the tower and then it goes bing, 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 here's all your icons, go to these places to get the things. Whereas Fallout doesn't do that. It's a huge game, it's full of stuff, but it's up to you to find it. You'll see the little outline on your compass. I think that looks interesting, and then you'll head towards it, and you'll find something, but you won't know what it is. It might be a side quest. It might be an interesting location. You clear it out, you find some cool loot. It might be a horribly overpowered enemy that's going to kill you in one hit. But it doesn't feel like you've been spoon-fed this stuff. Everything you find, every mission, you find it by exploring. You find it by following your nose, heading to things that look interesting, by talking to people, by listening to radio signals. It's never just handed out to you like, go here, do this. There's always, here's an interesting starting point, but what happens after that, we're not going to tell you. And I think that makes a huge difference, because that's what makes it feel like it's your adventure.
It makes the world feel alive as well. You're not
Absolutely,
following waypoints like you are in Assassin's Creed. Well, you are following waypoints, but Assassin's Creed
They use them to get you to the right place, but it's never, there is a flower here that you must pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favourite bits, I'm not sure if this is classed as a spoiler, so I'll try and be a bit vague about it, but an early mission, you need to go somewhere that is very radioactive. Have you got to that bit yet?
I have, yes.
Yeah, and the game doesn't tell you what to do. It just says you might need a radiation suit, you might need to stock up on anti-radiation sort of tonics and stuff, or you might need some power armor. But then it doesn't go bing bong bong, here's a power armor over here, here's the other thing you need. It's up to you now. Those things are out in the world, go and get them. And when I sort of thought, well, I came across someone before who was talking about that, there might be a power armor there. So I went and did another mission that I thought would be in a location where there might be a power armor, and there was. So then I had the power armor, I could go back to that other mission, but it felt like I'd come to that solution myself.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, here's a waypoint that will take me to one of the three things that I need. It was literally, you need to engage with the world in order to get to where you need to be.
And that sense of freedom is amazing, and I can probably say that both our experiences have been completely different to one another's as well.
Oh, sure they have, yeah. I mean, obviously there are missions that are the same, but the order you come to them, the way you tackle them, and even just the stuff in between, that's what makes these games work for me, is the fact that you can be heading to a mission and then you'll see something else and go, oh, I wonder what's in there. And it opens up a rabbit hole of just more stuff. There are so many buildings in the sort of centre of Boston that are explorable, and each one is like a little self-contained story, and each one could take an hour, 2 hours. Some of them would be an entire game in other games. It
is quite intimidating at points, just the sheer scope of things that you can do.
Yeah, and that's without even getting into, like you say, the stuff like the crafting and the settlements that you can build. Because I mean, once you get into that's an incredibly deep system.
Yeah, I mean, we should really touch on that, because the settlements is brand new to the Fallout universe, as is the ability to build your own bases. I've been having a lot of fun playing around. Haven't gone too deep into the programmable aspects yet. But
yeah, no, it's almost Minecrafty in a way. You can craft switches and relays and wire all these things together. And like you say, I've just not even got around to doing that yet. But you can build structures ready-made, or you can build walls and just design your own buildings. You can design your own power armor piece by piece. You can customize it with different paint jobs,
and then you can manage all the settlers that you have there, like a kind of little meta game where you have to feed them, keep them happy, protect them.
Yeah, and if you have the right perks, you can actually set up supply lines between them, so you can have, one of your settlements might be growing lots of food, so you can have them set up a stall in another settlement that you've founded, and they can sell the food to other settlers.
It's insane. I mean, if I wasn't trying to rush through the story, I could quite easily just stop and hang out in Sanctuary and just build amazing buildings, scavenge for bits to craft with, and like hardly even bother going on quests.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want people to feel like off put by that kind of thing because it's not overwhelming. It's there if you want to do it, and if you don't want to do it, you're not penalised for that, which is nice. It's an incredibly deep system, but if it's not your kind of thing, it's not essential by any means.
Yeah, you're right. And as well as adding all this new stuff, they've kept a lot of the mechanics of Fallout 3 and New Vegas there, but they've also made it a lot more accessible. Looting bodies now, when you look at bodies,
Yes.
you just look at them and the inventory's there. It's everything's sped up and smoother.
Yeah,
And
you don't have to like open everything to see what's inside them. You can just see. Although sometimes that can be a mixed blessing because in combat and things like that.
oh, when you're pressing
the
X to reload and you
Yeah,
accidentally transfer your items into a dead body.
yeah. There's the context sensitive stuff requires you to be a bit careful about where you're looking when you're doing things. But just in terms of exploring and looting, like you say, it just makes it so much easier.
How do you feel then about the talking protagonist? Because that's a new addition to the game as well. I thought it made it feel a lot more cinematic and a bit more involved than before.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some really good characters in it as well. I'm a big fan of Nick Valentine. I think he might become a series classic.
Have you added him as a companion yet?
I had him as a companion for a while, and then I met a super mutant called Strong.
Yes.
I felt I've got to have you because you're called Strong and you're a giant, and I gave him a minigun, and now he just wastes everything in front of us. But yeah, Nick Valentine is one of those sort of pastiche characters. He's kind of like a Humphrey Bogart kind of character. And at first, it's kind of fun to have someone like that around, but then the more you impress him by doing things he approves of, the more he opens up to you in your conversations, and the more eventually he offers you, the sort of loyalty missions that we've seen in things like Mass Effect, I guess. But you start to realise actually he's quite a deep and poignant character. The companion AI is not great. They still have a tendency to sort of either run at ridiculously overpowered foes with a hairbrush and try and melee them to death.
Yeah.
And they're constantly being sort of knocked out and leaving you on your own.
I gave Piper a rocket launcher to hold. I didn't realise that they'd actually used the stuff that you gave them to hold, because occasionally she says, hey, you look like you're going to break your back. Let me hold some stuff for you. So I did. And then we were fighting in an alleyway, and this enemy came towards me, and she just shot a rocket into the back of my head and killed me straight out.
Yeah. No, I had exactly the same thing with Nick Valentine, because obviously I found one of the Fat Man mini nuke launchers,
Yeah.
and they weigh a ton, and I was already overburdened, so I gave that to him. And first thing he does is use it to kill a bloat fly.
Oh my god.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm talking about. It's like they make stupid decisions.
Yeah.
And they'll use the wrong tool for the situation. They'll switch to a hammer to fight a huge enemy, and then they'll switch to a nuke to fight a small enemy. And I don't know. They're not great at actually helping you. I don't think they're sort of fun to have around, but they feel more like a sort of satchel with legs than an actual assist in combat.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap things up, Fallout 4 has been easily the most anticipated game of the year, but does it live up to the hype, and will it satisfy series fans?
Yeah, it's definitely going to satisfy series fans, because I think they will be more ready to accept the flaws that are kind of inherent in this game now. I think that's those sort of glitches and the slightly wonky edges to the world. I think that's just one of the price you have to pay for a game this size and this complex. So if you've made your peace with that in previous Bethesda games, then it probably won't be a barrier to enjoying this one, because everything else about it is everything you loved about Fallout, but more of it and slightly deeper, and a lot more longevity, I think. If you found the previous games too buggy and it frustrated you, then I don't expect this to change that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, Dan Whitehead.
Thank you very much, Ian Higton.
And thanks, of course, to everyone who's watched this far into the video as well. If you did enjoy it, we've got loads more Fallout 4 videos going up on this channel today, so do check them out if you fancy a bit more Fallout 4 with your Monday. Goodbye.
See you later.